All right. Hello and welcome to the Starship Blunder lunch party.
Yay!
So, my name is Beth Martin, and I'm the creator of Starship Blunder. Yay! So, first of all, I want to thank everyone attending the party today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your weekend to come and join us. And also, I want to say thank you to all the authors who are here today to help me celebrate and talk a little bit more about the fun anthology that we put together. And big thank you to my husband, Charles, who is doing all the technology for us and making all this possible. I can't do it all by myself, although I try. So thank you so much, Charles, for doing that too. So, as many of you already know, Starship Blunder is a humorous science fiction anthology. The book contains 14 stories written by 12 authors, myself included, and each story is set in the Starship Blunder universe. So all the stories take place in the ill-fated starship called Starship Blunder. Although there's a few crew members who appear in several stories, there are a lot of transitory mates who don't have what it takes to stay on the Blunder for very long. Starship Blunder is the first of hopefully many Shareverse anthologies. So a Shareverse anthology is a multi-author anthology of short stories all set in the same universe. One person creates the universe, its lore, the setting, what makes it unique, some of the characters, and some of the themes for the project, and they invite other writers to write stories in their universe. Who am I? My name is Beth Martin. I'm an indie author. I love writing thrillers and science fiction stories. I also write puzzle books that combine logic puzzles of escape rooms with the reading style of a choose your own adventure novel. I also enjoy doing puzzles in escape rooms. I love playing board games and tabletop games, including Dungeons and Dragons. I also do a little bit of sewing. I play a few casual games, and I draw cool mazes. Um, with a husband, 2 kids, 2 cats, a snake, a fish, and an adult diagnosis of ADHD, I'm surprised I get anything done, but somehow, with lots of help from the amazing authors joining me today, Starship Blunder is the 14th title published by my publishing company, Beth Martin Books. So, as soon as I had the idea for a humorous starship that was a patchwork of repairs and repurposed parts, and the similarly not quite competent people and aliens who might work as her crew, I could not rest until I built a framework for the universe and put together all the details of how I would make this project a reality. And now it is. We made a book. Yay!
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 So, just to brag a little bit, since the launch on October 1st, Starship Blunder, the ebook has been a huge success. On the Kindle, so far, the Kindle book has topped the US Amazon charts as number 4 in humorous science fiction, number 3 in science fiction anthologies, number 2 in parodies, and the number 1 new release in parodies.
Great.
But enough about the book. Let me introduce all of the wonderful authors who helped make this project a reality. So I don't forget anyone. I'm going to go through all the authors alphabetically first. So I'd like to introduce Jason Abovsky, who wrote the story Hopscotch. Jason, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your story?
Sure. How's it going, all of you? I know about half of you there, and for those who don't know me, I'm a local author in Maryland with Beth, and I wrote one novel so far, Sullivan's Storm Chaser, which is a space fantasy novel. I've done another short story collection as well, and I also have a couple of different short stories out, and occasionally do conventions and crafts fairs. And when I'm not doing what I actually want to do, is in writing, I do software for a living, testing mostly. Yeah, pretty much it. Looking forward to getting my physical copies of the book and finishing reading the rest of all of your stories.
Yay, Jason, can you tell us a little bit about your story, Hopscotch?
All right. So Hopscotch, named after a certain Walter Matthau movie of the same name, involves a stowaway on board the Blunder, who the captain is trying to track down before these anal retentive aliens forcibly board to find this stowaway. But for some reason, the alien is escaping from one room to the next, undetected, and the captain's getting more and more frustrated as to why. That's kind of like McHale's Navy in space.
Thank you. So next I want to introduce Sil Bahagia, and you wrote the story Boomerang Black. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your story.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Sil. I'm a baby writer compared to most of the people here, although I've been writing on my own and not doing anything with it for about 20 years now. I did write one of the worst things ever submitted to Film Dance 20 years ago, not to brag, under a different name. But yeah, so I wrote a story, Boomerang Black, that focuses on a character from a elite political family who has been disappointing them ever since he was a kid, and he was caught eating gummy worm sparkle on Sentient Nematode Awareness Day, biting the heads off, looking straight at the camera. He knew what he was doing. And yeah, it sort of pokes fun at social media and influencer culture. And I had a lot of fun writing it, and a lot of fun working with Beth and all the other writers here and reading through their stories. I read through every one, and they're really good. I wish I could leave a review for y'all, but it's my book too. So we'll just have to wait for other people to roll in. Yeah. Oh, I have a 7-year-old who wants to say hi. Hello. Yes. So also a parent and suburban chicken farmer. And I like swords, as you can tell in the swords over here. No, Phoenix. No, not until your sensei says. Okay. Padded weapons only.
Can I have a katana?
If it's padded, yes.
I want a real katana.
All right.
Yay, thank you, Sil. We also have Ed Cook, and
Hi,
he wrote
Edward.
the story Out of the Dusty Planet. Ed, you want to talk about yourself and your story?
Yeah, hey, I am Ed Cook. I sit in this very chair, which could be worth something after my demise, and I write stuff. A bit like Sil, I've been writing for a long time. I haven't had anything published just lately, so thanks to Starship Blunder for bringing me back in from the cold. If I was a band, I guess I would have been on hiatus. This is my first anthology where I started. Get a load of this cover. People thought it was porn. You see that? Oops. It's called Elf Love, and yeah, some overachiever even drew a comic strip for it. It's pretty crazy. I was also in this. This is quite interesting. There are people in here who have gone on to do PhDs in creative writing and all sorts of good stuff. It's called Detective of the Fantastic, Volume 2. And this is my first solo product. This is a thing called The Delight of Boxes. It's a collection of short stories. It was a little bit ambitious for my technical ability at the time. My Starship Blunder story is based on a thing that my dad used to read me as a bedtime story out of this book of science fiction stories. It's called The Dusty Death by John Kippax, the story in here. And it's a pretty grim science fiction story for bedtime, let me tell you. It's about these two guys who go out on the moon in a moon rover, and they sink into a hole in the dust, but then they get out again, and that's the end. And now go to sleep, kid. Okay, that's me. Nice to know you all. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Edward. And we also have with us today Susan Eschbach, and you wrote the story Hellspawn in the Swamp. So go ahead and introduce yourself and your story.
I'm from Southwest Missouri, small town. Not much to do in a small town, so I write science fiction to escape. And been writing science fiction for about 10 years, 12 years, somewhere around in there. Did get 2 books published. They're now unfortunately out of print. And then I've had a couple of 2 or 3 other short stories published in various anthologies. Hellspawn in the Swamp is actually a sort of recreation or reimagining of a scene out of my second published book. So it was fun to take it and rewrite it from a more comical perspective, but had a lot of fun doing it. It was good.
Awesome. Thank you, Susan. Next, we have Matt King, and you wrote this in the dining hall. So go ahead and tell us about yourself and your story.
So since we're doing props, Beth, I'm a retired police officer. And Edward, since you're over across the pond there, I'll translate it to this one here for you. So we have that there. Just long story how I got that. I didn't steal it, but it's an official one. I'm a native New Yorker on a temporarily 40-year assignment to Maryland so far. And started like Beth, like Sil actually just mentioned, a baby writer who's benefited tremendously from many people on the screen here, and I'm thankful for that. And my main genre is I have a manuscript on an action thriller, and this is my first short story that's been submitted. First thing I've written in science fiction, so I was glad it was a little bit of a comedy. So my focus is on the security director, sort of chief of police on it, and how he blunders through a homicide investigation that's on the ship that may or may not be a homicide. Thanks, Beth.
All right. Thank you, Mac. And then next we have Ariel Sealing, and you wrote the story Salt in the Wound. So go ahead and introduce yourself and your story.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ariel. I do have a cat on my lap. If you keep seeing sorry, it's, bad AI there, but this is Wilfredo Potato. If you see his head popping up during, he just decided to join. I love animals. That's probably the first thing. Wilfred is one of 7 cats that we have. We also have 6 geese, 8 goats, a bunch of chickens, a duck, 3 dogs. So we like to do rescue. That's my little thing about me. That's all you really need to know. I do have a bunch of stuff published. You can just look up my name and find it. Mostly sci-fi and fantasy. I think I have 6 series in different stages. So if you're interested in sci-fi and fantasy and you need something to read, you can find me pretty much all over the internet. My short story, Salt in the Wound, is actually kind of based off of a recent life change that I made where I went out and got like a grown-up job. I've been a freelance / full-time writer for 10 years, and I just was feeling a little dissatisfied with my life. So I went out and got a full-time corporate job, and now I'm a content writer for a multi-billion-dollar corporation. It's a very, very different experience than working for yourself at home. And so my main character in the story is sort of doing something similar. She went out, she got a real job on an asteroid and realizes she's kind of discontented, really needs a break, really wants to leave. So she hitches a ride on the Starship Blunder, and things just kind of go downhill from there. So that's the general premise of my story. And I'm happy to be here. Although, Beth, I do sometimes miss Maryland. I met Beth in Maryland a few years ago, and now we're in New Hampshire. So it's a big difference.
Yeah, Maryland misses you too. And then finally, last but not least, we have Edward Swing, and you wrote the story, The Susacan Caper. So go ahead and tell us about yourself and your story.
Sure. I've been writing for a number of years. I've written a total of 8 books so far, plus a few short stories, and mostly science fiction and fantasy. My story in the Starship Blunder collection is the Susacan Caper, is about a Vance Pittman who happens to be on the Blunder because he's been sent there as an alternative to prison, because so he really hates being stuck there. And the plot of the Susaken caper is that he's trying to find a way off the ship that doesn't put him in a worse situation. And since he's a former thief, a former jewel thief, he comes up with something that, if you haven't read the story, let's just say it goes horribly, horribly right. So that's about it. I hope you have fun reading it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I had fun reading everyone's story. There is so much talent here today. I wrote 3 of the stories in the collection. So like an intro story called the Great Neptune Storm, that kind of gets us into the world and introduces the characters who are seen throughout the anthology. And then my second story, Crash Course in Negotiations, introduces Jordan, who's a recent college grad, and he wants adventure, and he tries to negotiate with a pretty hostile alien tribe, and instead the Blunder crash lands on the wrong planet, and he has to negotiate with the not too friendly natives there. And then the final story that I wrote for the collection is The Last Voyage, and it is the last story in the collection, and it kind of ties up some of the loose ends, and we see pilot Sarah Hawkins has her annual performance review, and it doesn't go well. And somehow Commander Rex Sterling convinces the Admiral to give her one last chance, one last mission, and the mission does not go well either. And we see the ultimate fate of the Starship Blunder. So before we get into the panel discussion, I want to introduce the game we're going to play. It's a scavenger hunt, and here's how it works. The authors have already been given a list of words. They're strange and peculiar, and they will definitely stick out. We're going to try and sneak these words into our answers. Every time they successfully use one of the words in their discussions, they can give themselves a point. Okay. And now here's where the audience comes in. You need to find the authors saying these words from this list. So when you hear a word from the scavenger hunt word list, go ahead and type it into the chat or comment it. And the first person to do so will also get a point. So all the authors are playing against each other, and all the audience is playing against each other. So we'll have 2 winners. We'll have an author winner, and we will have an audience winner. So at the end of the event, we'll compare all of our tallies. Everyone keep track of your own score, and we'll see who wins. The winning author gets bragging rights, and the winning audience member will get extra goodies with their book plate at the end of the event. So there are 10 scavenger hunt words. I'm going to read them out to you. The words will also occasionally scroll along the bottom of the screen. You can see them scrolling right now. All right, is everyone ready? Okay, here are the words: blunderbuss, brouhaha, cantankerous, chimney, gazebo, macaroni, pickle jar, Shakespeare, shenanigans, zoologist. All right, that's all 10 words. Now listen carefully, and good luck to everyone. All right, now that we've gotten past all that brouhaha, let's get into the panel discussion. All right, I'm just going to go in reverse alphabetical order this time. So we're going right back to you, Ed.
Okay.
Ed, you always write really engaging action scenes, and your story includes a jewel heist. How did you plot that scene?
I came up with the idea of Vance getting into the shenanigans of interacting with the whole guard force. I try to approach action scenes as if I were filming it from a like a Shakespeare play. So you actually put the actors on a stage and then move them about the way that they should flow through the scene. So and then I know where the scene is going and then try to get there. So
Awesome. Yeah, yeah, I like that kind of seeing it in your brain as an action movie. I don't know, do any of the rest of you do that too?
Yeah, absolutely. What's
All right.
frustrating is when you have an idea that just will not translate to the written word. I have a few of those of like rapid cut. Don't know how to write it yet. If you all have figured it out, let me know.
Well, if you want to talk to me about it sometime when we sit down, at the coffee shop, just let me know.
Yeah, I don't want to make a big brouhaha about it, but yeah, I'll talk.
Have you guys seen that meme that goes around that like says some people see things in their brain like this and some people don't see anything in their brains? Have you guys seen that? It's got like an apple. It's like some people can
Right.
visualize things in like super intense detail. I don't actually visualize pretty much anything unless I
Really?
get like, super lost in the scene. And then it's kind of like a switch in my head. I can turn on and off, and I can do it with sound as well. But most of the time, just kind of, it's just, yeah, I don't visualize it the same way that everyone else does. So
Huh.
Oh,
I'm
that's
jealous.
rough.
No, there are some people that
Yeah,
don't,
yeah.
they can't, they don't have an inner monologue. They don't have it's not a voice. It's just
Yeah.
images or pictures or feelings. I can't even fathom it.
Yeah, no, my brain is constant, everything yelling at me all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, there was an
All
Instagram
right.
video that has like, a song overlaid with like impulsive thoughts like, hey, there's a bridge. Wonder what it'd be like to jump off it just on top of each other. And that's when I learned that other people's brains aren't like that, because
Whoa,
everything
they
all at
aren't?
once is how I roll.
All right, next I've got a question for Ariel Sealing. You've written and published quite a few books, from sci-fi to dystopian to fantasy, fairy tales, and more. What's your favorite thing about writing sci-fi, and how does it compare to other genres?
So, my favorite thing about sci-fi is the sort of endless possibility of it. We don't know anything about the universe compared to the size of the universe. I mean, it's just crazy. So, what's really cool is that means I can make whatever I want to happen. There's sort of some people who are fans of sci-fi are like really intensely like it has to be believable, like it has to be based on biology, like some people get really mad about explosions in space. It's like, oh, you can't see them, or sound in space, oh, there's no sound in space. Yeah. Some people have like really strong opinions about that. I don't. I think anything is possible, if not in this dimension, maybe in a different dimension. We don't know how any of it works. So my favorite thing is just the idea that I can just invent another planet, a spaceship, another civilization, and it can function however I want it to, because the universe is so big, and it gives me the opportunity to believe that something like that is actually possible. And I think that that's really cool. There was a second part of your question, and I already forgot what it was.
How is it different from other genres? So, like,
Yes.
anything can happen in fantasy, right? How is that different?
Yes. So the biggest difference for me personally between sci-fi and fantasy, I think sci-fi is a little bit easier, believe it or not, because even though anything is possible, there's sort of already a set of rules to start from with sci-fi. Oh no, the cat just fell off my lap. So So there's already a set of rules. Like I went through all of my science classes in school, so I already have a system to work in. With fantasy, I feel like I have to invent the system. And that for me, and the way that my brain works, is really fun, but it's a lot more work. It's a lot harder to make all of the different pieces tie together. Like if I run into a problem with a plot, it's really easy for me to just be like, well, what's something in real life that already exists that might apply in this situation? Oh, an asteroid hit the ship, or like, oh, there's a planet in the way. You know what I mean? Whereas with fantasy, I have to invent something new. And while that's super fun, it's also more difficult. So that's kind of the main difference for me between sci-fi and fantasy specifically. I probably could write an essay on how sci-fi is different from all the other genres.
I think we probably all could, to be
Yeah.
fair. I know I stick pretty close to thriller and sci-fi myself. Do any of you write a bunch of genres or no?
No, I am like strictly sci-fi. That's the only one that, I mean, I incorporate other things. Like I recently discovered that what I write really could be considered sci-fi thriller. So I'm actually thinking about pitching things, you know, that combined genre. But I have writer friends who write romance, and that just, damn, no. No romance. Love stories, yes, not romance. There's a difference.
I tried dabbling with horror, but it didn't quite work well. Although I'm going to try again soon. So
Yeah, my son's very good at horror, but that he worries me sometimes.
I'm dabbling in horror right now, but it's
Ah.
very challenging, and it's sci-fi horror, so I'm cheating a little bit.
I have a couple of dark fantasy stories.
Familiar.
I gotta
Yeah.
dig out.
I remember when I was like a teenager, my dad found like I had some like Shakespeare assignment where I had to write like a sonnet from the point of view of Lady Macbeth. My dad finds this on the printer, takes 2 weeks to work up the courage to ask me if I'm going to kill myself. That's when I meant happy to let him know.
My son wrote a horror story like that. We actually finally did sit him down and say, "Hey, you know, we need to know if you're really feeling this. We need to know." And he was like, "Huh? No, it just wrote the story."
Right.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
find
fiction.
like
It's
a
fun.
lot of people like to play out things very different from who
Yeah.
they are in real life.
Right.
Like to experience things that they don't feel in real life, but both as a reader and as a writer. So that makes sense to me. That
I did want to comment on something Ariel said, because part of what attracted me to science fiction is the social aspects that can be brought out in it, and the ability to craft either a totally dystopian society and show why it's not working and make it relate to what's not working in our own real world, or conversely to craft a utopian society and show, hey guys, you know, this is what it could be like if you'd all just quit acting like, you know, what's and be a little more sensible. And so one of my books that I wrote did have a dark side because they focused on child trafficking. And that was a tough sell, because although society's beginning to recognize the degree to which that really is a problem, nobody really wants to deal with it yet. And but it reminded me a lot of the early Star Trek episodes where they dealt with racial issues, when, you know, okay, we all knew that was there, but nobody wanted to deal with it at that point. So I kind of felt like I was on the front of the curve on that, and maybe maybe those books will get revived at some point, you know, if somebody accepts that that's a viable issue that they want to tackle. But yeah, I like the ability to tackle tough issues in science fiction, and yet, you know, put it in fiction and put it, as she said, out in the universe where anything can happen.
Yeah, it's interesting because sci-fi is really unique in the sense that it offers you the ability to craft a universe that is perfect for exploring social issues or just philosophy in general.
Right.
And I think that's a super unique and interesting use for exploring human shenanigans.
Right.
See, this is kind of why I
Absolutely.
like science fiction and fantasy, is that they're not really genres. They're more like super genres. It's a setting and world building.
Setting, exactly.
Laying the Shakespearean stage to present you with anything. If you want a romance story, if you want alternative fiction or real fiction told in a new way, you can just change the background. And if you're doing politically sensitive topics and you want to show your opinion in a certain way, you can present the argument in an entirely different fashion, like having an alien split down the middle with two colors.
Right.
It gives you
That was
those
my favorite
opportunities
scene.
without triggering too many people, in a sense. I try to write that way too, to kind of give you like the macaroni and cheese of reading, so you just enjoy the experience.
Oh, that's why I love writing novels. You get like 100,000 words to just, yeah, this is everything that I think, and you have to read it, right?
Right.
But I'm going to go ahead and move the conversation forward. I have a question for Matt King. A number of the Blunder authors drew inspiration from comedic TV shows and humorous books. And I know the character in your story, Sheriff Kojak, was also inspired by TV shows. He watched a lot of police procedurals. Do you think that his extensive research helped him become a more effective security officer?
Well, with the comedy, most police procedural shows have some base in like CSI type thing where they follow the procedures. But later on in the story where he finds what he thinks is a body is based on an experience I had in Russia where we were doing an exchange with them and they took us to a homicide scene and we were on the scene for about 20 minutes and I saw that the dead victim was actually breathing and pointed that out to the Russian police and they quickly told the Americans to leave the scene. So yeah, but with that, with the TV procedurals, tried to, like I said, a little comedy in it based on that and bring it to the forefront. And I'm sorry about my dog. A FedEx truck just popped up. So he thinks he can chase it. So thanks, Beth.
Yeah, I know a number of the stories were inspired by TV and stuff, and I didn't know that about the Russian investigation. That's insane. I can't even imagine. I have a question next for Susan. So a few of the stories in Starship Blunder have it attacked by pirates and vermin, and your story features plants attacking the ship. So what inspired you to use Flora as the villain?
I think because it was different. And interestingly enough, the particular aliens were inspired by my younger son used to be into a card game called Yu-Gi-Oh! And one of they had a contest one time where you could design your own character for the game. And so he had designed a character that is the one that's in my book. And I thought it was such a cool character that he designed that I thought, and this kind of happened at the same time that I was writing my second book. And I thought, wow, I really want these kind of quasi animal plant, you don't quite know which they are. And I think even the zoologist on my ship was having a hard time figuring out if they're plants or animals and so on and so forth. And so that inspired that scene. And so then you've got to have a mechanism for getting the ship to the planet that, where that happens. And that fit in very nicely because the attackers in that particular case originally, in this case, they're pirates, but in the original version, they were military enforcers who were after one of the characters on my character's ship. And so that was an easy switch to pirates. And, we have robbers, here. There have always been thieves. Back in the ancient times, there were highway robbers. So why would there not be pirates in space? Obviously, if you're shipping cargo, there's going to be pirates. So in the Starship Blunder was such a perfect candidate when it was such a, bad ship to begin with. What pirate couldn't take down a ship like that and steal what it had? So that's where it came from.
Awesome. That's so fun. Yeah, we have, there's one other story and written by Melissa, and she couldn't be here, that has like toxic plants. That was a lot of fun. I was like, I can't believe multiple people had this great idea and how fun but different it played out in the two stories. We also had two stories with slugs, which I thought was so great that there's actually 3 stories total that have slugs in them, space slugs. It was so fun that like people come up with the same thing and then did something so different with them and so unique.
Well, if you look at the variety of life on Earth, I keep trying to find some form of life that couldn't be on Earth. And when you look at extremophiles, and I just came up with a couple of new ones. They had a video yesterday of this crazy glowing creature with, I mean, it looked like an eel, but it was glowing, and it turned out it wasn't a creature. It's like a colony of creatures that can manage to work together. And each creature, even though it's an individual creature, they'll each perform a different job. And I'm going, that's like, telepathy or something. I mean, this planet just has the most amazing variety of life. I can't imagine that there's any other planet that's quite as crazy as this one.
There's a YouTuber that I follow named Beth Martin, I think is how to pronounce it, who has a good series on how to create an alien biosphere. So that's a.
And what's his name again?
It's Biblaridian, I think. Hold on, let me take a quick.
I gotta write that one down.
Where's the window here? I'll take a quick check and post it in the chat.
Okay.
All right. So I have a question next for Edward Cook. Writing humor is incredibly hard, and your story made me laugh out loud so many times the first time I read it, and every subsequent time I read it. I've read all the stories very many times. They're great. How do you approach writing humor?
Gosh, wow. Well, thank you. I don't usually get comments like that. Most of the feedback on my stories is wrapped around a brick and it comes through the window here. You've really floored me with that. That's a really terrific compliment. I don't know what to say. There are a lot of books about how to write humor. The best thing about them is usually the front covers. They have banana skins and that kind of thing on it. It certainly helps to be a pretty crazy person. It also helps to have watched a lot of Monty Python. I commend it to you, because what Monty Python usually did was they would start out in a completely ordinary situation, like a guy would be reading the news, and the camera would pull back to reveal that he was on the back of a lorry or something, and it would just get weirder and weirder from there. They had another sketch, of course, where there were a bunch of grannies who went around acting like Hell's Angels. They rode motorbikes and wore leather and terrorized young people by throwing things at them in the street. Of course, in this country, we all like to think that the British humour is one of our great exports. It isn't. I think the truth is that all our other exports are worse. But of course, Shakespeare's humour is mostly knob gags, so that transcends cultures.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. I'm really chuffed by that. Thank you so much for that, Beth.
I mean, like I said, all the stories are really great, but yeah, I was laughing a lot. Let's see, who do I have next? Syl, I've got a story for you. A question. Your story had a lot of fun, inventive elements, like the gummy worm sparkle candy and sweat scented cologne. What was your favorite element that you created for your story, and what inspired it?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, that's tough. Okay. Because, I mean, anything to make people laugh to me is a good moment. So it's hard to pick one. And I don't want to give spoilers here by giving away my best lines. Y'all should read the book. But I will say, it was just, I always feel like there's two dialogues going on in my head at any one time. There's professional me, and there's the what can I say to make this the absolute worst thing to say going on in my head. So I was able to use that other voice a bit in the story and just be completely absurdist. And that was fun. I mean, I guess, I won't give away a line, but I did change the subject. Sorry to be cantankerous, but I made this slime because, Susan, she has her slime story. There was 2 hive mind stories of slugs, Ariel's and another. So I found gummy worms that actually look like slugs. And we put that in there. Kids are eating it, so there's no vodka. But I do have beer as a homage to Ed's story.
Okay, last question that I have prepared for the panel is for Jason. Your story features a stowaway who's so helpful to the entire Blunder crew that everyone does everything within their power to keep him on board. So do you see parts of yourself in this handyman character, or are the two of you completely different?
I would definitely like to say I take after my grandfather in the jack of all trades, master of none category. And this character kind of takes on that persona where being helpful is just taking on new trades and new skills and rolling with it and seeing where you end up. And you never know what you might enjoy. And at the same time, I mean, the shenanigans he gets up to is not really all that words. I have no words. What was the question again? I'm not following it. I forgot the question.
I'm sorry. No, it's fine. Do you find yourself similar to the handyman, always being helpful, or do you think your personalities are totally different?
I would say our personalities are fairly different otherwise. Yeah, based with the skill sets and whatnot, what I saw for this character, I based off of literally an episode of McHale's Navy, where they had a Japanese POW living on the island in a U.S. Navy base during World War II. And they were hiding him from the base commander who was coming by for an inspector, and popping him from one room to the next and the next to the next.
All right, thank you. So I've got a question kind of for the group. Anyone feel free to answer this one. What was your favorite alien species on the Starship Blunder? I will answer this first and say that the pink snowman furry aliens that Edward Swing put in his story were hilarious. They were my favorite, but I'd love to hear what you all think.
Whatever was in Ross's story at the end. Say keeping him happy for the 9 years Starship Blunder left him behind.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Beth, like you said, there's so many different characters with different species. It's almost like you had to be a zoologist to figure the whole thing out. Yeah,
the little pink snowman, the Susakans, actually, their name is actually a pun. If you say it, put the stress slightly differently, Susakans. Dr. Seuss. That's why they're pink and fuzzy. So that's where I got that term from. So
nice, perfect. All right, another question for all of you. If your story was made into a movie, which actor would you put in the lead role?
Maybe a slightly older, the guy who just played Spider-Man. What's his name?
That doesn't narrow it down.
Yeah, I mean the one in the recent Marvel MCU.
Yeah, who played Spider-Man this week?
Tom Holland, is that the
Tom
one?
Holland, yeah, Tom Holland or something like that. Slightly older.
I'm terrible at celebrities.
Yeah, me too.
So I'm amazed that I knew that one. But the one that pops into my head is Selena Gomez, but only because we're currently watching Only Murders in the Building. So, but I love her, so I would be perfectly happy with her playing my character.
If anything of mine was ever made into a movie, it would have to have the guy who plays Loki in it. He's I'm like, I remember characters, not actors, so I have no idea what his real name is, but he just
Tom Hiddleston.
What is it?
Tom Hiddleston.
Ah.
Beth, I think in mine,
That's the ordinary name.
Mine, the sheriff would be Don Rickles.
Might have to dig for that one.
Yeah, I'm
Check under
digging
the
through
gazebo.
IMDb for Indian actors under 30. Everyone I can
I
think
know.
of.
I don't watch a lot of movies either. So I'm like, who would I don't know who I'd have play any of the people. Like even like the pilot. I don't know who would play her.
If they ever made a movie for David Weber's Honorverse, the one who played Honor Harrington, that's the person I'd want to play for the latest and greatest captain for that particular story.
What was the captain?
Short-lived though they may be.
In now I'm forgetting the name of it. It's like super cult with a spaceship with
Firefly.
Yeah, thank you. Who's the captain of Firefly? She could be the captain in ours.
There we go.
I forget her name, but she was amazing. So we do have a question in the Facebook chat.
Okay.
Beth, do you want me to read it or do you want to read it?
You got it.
You're the boss, so I don't want to like take over. Alan wants to know plotter or pantser for all of us and what works best for you.
Well, for me, I actually kind of blend them. I'm probably closer to a pantser, but I generally have a loose plot already planned out. I know where the story's going, and then just kind of let, as I write, sometimes things things occur to me to kind of add in or flesh out, but I make sure that I don't go off the rails or land myself in a pickle jar because I'm not plotting well. So
I'm the opposite. I just start writing and go and put myself in that pickle jar and get stuck. And then I have,
And
when
fight
I'm
your way
trying to figure out how to solve the problem that I've just created for my characters, I just put more problems on them. And the beauty is editing. You can change everything in editing and make it actually work. So
I went the third route. I'm full on plotting side. I actually, when I first got into writing, I was writing like for fan fiction and whatnot, a chapter a week and basically full out pantsing. But then when I started to write my novel for the first time, I got 20 chapters into pantsing and hit a plot hole so big it was a void and I could not get out. And I had to literally start the entire project from scratch. And after that, I was like, okay, I need to understand what I'm doing, where I'm going, and how I'm going to get there. And I've been trying to perfect that process and simplify it and come up with a technique that can produce more results faster and better quality. And I'm slowly working my way there.
Yeah, Beth, on the next one that I'm working on, a manuscript, more of a plotter because it's a sort of a murder mystery and it's a serial killer. So I'm plotting out the murder timeline so it fits in with the rest of the story.
Yeah. The more pieces you need, have working together, the more you need to plot versus just royally pants. So
right. And I feel like mysteries need a lot of planning in order for all the details to come out and it makes sense.
Right.
I've
actually heard that mystery writers sometimes work from the end backwards rather than the beginning forwards. So
I've tried pretty much every method under the sun. I have a lot of things published. But at this point in my career, I am 100% pantser. I decided a few years ago that I was going to try. I had been in a sort of planting phase where I would come up with a few ideas, like a general plot structure, maybe the end of the story, and then kind of half pants and half plot. But then one day I decided I was just going to try pantsing full on without worrying about anything. I sat down, I wrote Once Upon a Time, and I think I ended up with 104,000 words drafted in a month with like a bunch of short stories and most of a novel. And I was like, oh, I guess I should have been doing this the whole time. So I kind of think everybody has their own way that works for them. And I would never go to a new writer and be like, oh, you definitely have to pants it. My recommendation is always to experiment and see, what feels the best. That's kind of where I'm at.
and you might be able to wing it because after 40 books, you've internalized all the structure.
Yes.
For me, like
Right.
I tried, pantsing first, and then my books were just too long. And then I couldn't get everywhere I needed to go. The second book that worked really well for me in the last Badger Camp, completely plotted. I mean, there was a few details that just sort of happened that I folded back in and revised the outline, but I have a clear idea of what I want to happen in each scene throughout the book. And I wrote it, and that flowed, and it worked.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes when I'm writing, though, I have the scene in mind, and as I'm writing, all of a sudden my characters decide that they want to go in a different direction. It's like, okay, it makes sense for the character, for this to happen for this character, but I got to kind of railroad them back into the scene that I want to plan in the direction of the plot. Otherwise, it's he's going to carry the entire book off into a different direction. So
Yeah. I've sat with Jason while he does it, and he's really, and Ed knows this too, from when we write together, the master sort of plotter. He's got this system set up, and then I think he fills in the shenanigans in between the different plot lines.
Start from the top
Yeah,
down,
absolutely.
write a one-page summary of what you're working on, start to finish, just one page. And you have no idea how far that one page can help boil down what you need. And you can pants from there. And just having that beginning, middle, and end can make a huge difference.
yeah, that's about what I do.
Yeah, it is helpful to have an end point in sight sometimes. All right, well, that's pretty much all the time that we have for questions. So as a thank you for everyone who came out to the launch party, I am sending book plates with all of the Starship Blunder authors' autographs. So you can just take the book plate, attach it to the inside of your book, and you've turned your book into an autographed copy. So in order to claim your freebie, we're going to put a QR code. Follow the QR code. Wait, there we go. That way on the bottom right of the screen, or go to starshipblunder.xyz/free bookplate. That's free-bookplate. And let me know where to mail it, and I will get those sent out. And I know that Sil is also hosting a giveaway. Sil, can you tell us about it?
Yeah, sure. So I advertised in social media that anyone who subscribed to my newsletter by October 1st would be eligible to win a signed copy of the book. Mac doesn't know it yet, but I'll try to get the other local writers in here as well if they're willing to sign it, and I'll mail it off. And yeah, I really should have gotten a big pickle jar, but I put them in a Renaissance beer stein as well. And we'll see who won.
As Shakespeare might approve.
As
Yes.
Shakespeare might have drank from, of course. So it is rflores@gmail.com. I don't know if you're on the stream, but I will be contacting you to get your address. And thanks everybody for coming.
Yay, awesome. But before we conclude the party, I want to have a toast. So let's find out first who won the scavenger hunt game. Now, I only got like a couple points. How did the other authors fare?
4 or 5.
I got 1.
2.
I get wrapped up on yakking and forget to pay attention.
I forgot.
Two.
I caught a bunch, but it's all for bragging rights. So we all won.
We all get bragging rights. Well, I think that Alan by far won in our audience. So great job, Alan. If you want to go ahead and go to that website, starshipblunder.xyz/freebookplate, I will look for your name and I will send you extra goodies if you would like me to do that. And finally, let's finish with a toast. So to our wonderful audience, thank you for taking time out of your busy weekends and spending with us and celebrating our exciting book launch. This has been a delightful project, and I am so happy that it's finally released and I get to share it with all of you. To my fellow Starship Blunder authors, I absolutely could not have done this without you. Thank you so much for writing brilliant stories in my silly space world. I hope we'll get the opportunity to work together again and write together again. Until the next adventure. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
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 Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us. Galactic misadventure awaits, and goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you, Beth.
All right, thanks, everybody.